My pleasure to host Mr. Amit Das in today's class. So he has kindly agreed to give a lecture on OR applications in aviation. Um, so he is currently working as Assistant General Manager in Air India. So he is with Air India for the last 21 years. He is a BTech alumnus from IIT Kanpur, and after that he joined Air India, and now because of his research inclinations, he is pursuing PhD in operations management from Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. His topic of study is on the aspects of regional connectivity scheme, which is recently launched by Government of India. So thank you, Mr. Das, for kindly agreeing to give us some, insights about some practical problems in aviation industry, where WAR can be a very useful tool. Uh, so I ask the students to listen to him um, uh, with attention, and then you can ask your questions, or or anything that you would want, right, at the end of the talk. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Das. So over to you. So you can now start your presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sen, for inviting me and introducing me to the students. It's indeed an honor for me to be present at this August gathering, where we have the best minds of India, and it's my pleasure to introduce all of you to the problems that airlines face. And I hope that this 1 hour session will be a eye-opening as to how the airlines operate. As of now, you have all seen airlines from a different perspective. You have gone to airports, taken a flight, and you might have a good experience, bad experience with the ticketing, check-in, service, and all. But what goes in the background is something that you are unaware of. And as a operation research topic, airline is a best place to be, because there are lot many challenges, lot many constraints, lot many things happening, and where you can really contribute. I'm sure if you have seen your OR books, take for example Hillier and Lieberman, you would have seen lot many examples of airline related problems. And in fact, I'm fortunate to work with someone who has contributed. If you see in the Hillier and Lieberman Indian edition book, in the integer programming chapter, there is one application vignette of Air New Zealand, how the crew management there had done substantial cost improvement. So I'm fortunate that in Air India Operation Control Center, I had worked with Mr. Edward Rodney Bouchards. His name is there in that paper. Uh, this has a huge potential, and I will show you through my slides how you can contribute a lot. Okay, so think about it. There are many problems in OR related to airlines which you can take up, and they are relevant even now. Okay, so sir, shall I start my
Yes,
slides?
yes. Please, please, yes.
So is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this 1 hour session, I will try to keep it short because I know that the topic is huge. There are many applications of word that are being used in airlines. I will stick to some of the core ones which are traditionally there, as well as I will also try to introduce certain emerging areas of OR, and if time permits, I will go a bit deep on irregular operation, which is which is one of my favorite subjects, and you would be glad to know that Professor Sen is contributing to it in a new way. So Professor Sen and his team is working on irregular operations with us to have a new way of solving this irregular operation in real time. So I will try that also, and also some problem that I am using uh, for the present. So maybe we'll work on that also, and maybe if someone can collaborate, that's wonderful. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. So we'll start a basic of what is how airlines work. So basically, before I start my airline OR 101, I have to introduce you to airline 101 first, right? So unless you understand how airline works, what is the airline operation, what is the airline economics, what is what the passenger wants. So unless you understand a bit of all this, it will difficult for you to appreciate how the problem will evolve. Secondly, I will also introduce you to the in a big organization setup, there are silos. One silo, other silo, third silo. So within a silo, they will try to optimize something. This silo will try to optimize their own, but this silo optimizing on its own, the optimal solution is not the optimal solution for the global company, right? So that also something, sometimes there is a tension, there's a conflict. So that also I will try to bring out in that. Okay, so first, a basic, and this topic, this OR topic in OR in airlines is nothing new. So while I was searching for some material while trying to prepare slides for you guys, I came across this this thesis submitted in 1971, which is exactly on our topic, the same topic, application of OR in the airline industry. So you can understand that in 1971, uh, I'm sure none of us were born probably during that time. So that time also it was relevant. In fact, the OR in airline is relevant from 1950s and 60s, when the computers were introduced, and the OR and computer, they tried to solve some problems in airline. What has led to more advancement in this field is the deregulation which happened in US market in 1980s, 70s, late 1970s, and when in the early 80s, when the market was open. Earlier it was a regulated market, regulated by government, how we will operate and all. But slowly this sector has opened up, so the routes are new. Everybody has to fight market based. So then it became more, means more better place for OR. Moreover, at the same time, the computers also evolved. They were able to solve faster, and they were able to, algorithms were coming up which can be used in a more efficient manner, real time manner. So these all market dynamics and technology and all has led to, in the 1980s, 90s, and early 2000, there has been rapid advancement in these fields. And those are, you can see in your books also. You will see some United Airlines has done something. New Zealand has done, the New Zealand Airlines has done something. So these all have come up in your books also. Okay, so this is the background that I'm giving. Now, to understand better, as I said earlier, that you need to understand how an airline runs, because ultimately it is the end product that matters. Whatever you are doing in OR, it is basically aiding the end product. So for an airline, which is a company. So for a company, profitability matters. For a company, the satisfaction of customer matters. So these two are very important. Wherever, I'm not saying that it is not only applicable for airline. Suppose you go to cement factory, and you're trying to do something in a cement factory, some OR application in cement factory. You should know what is the product that the company is offering. what is what is the target audience they are going to serve, what is their market niche and all. So you need to understand how those things work. Only then you can you can put your brain and develop algorithms and make it and streamline the process to either enhance your revenue or decrease your cost. So this is the two things that you will be doing. So here also in airline, before we proceed, I have certain questions. What does an airline sell? Any answer?
Service.
Yes, we are into service industry, that is for true. But actually what we sell is space, seat. We sell a seat, right? We sell a seat which you take from A to B. So you are going from say Calcutta to Delhi. Okay, you take a seat, right? So we sell a seat. And what is the unit of airline capacity? How do you measure? For example, if it is a manufacturing company, just like I said in a cement, you can say that it is you are producing cements in tons, right? You so many metric tons of cement is being produced by my company, something like this you say. But what do you say for an airline? What is the unit of airline capacity? How do you measure the airline capacity? Any idea?
Passengers.
No, passenger is our someone who takes these things. So for example, in cement industry, you are producing tons of cement and you are selling it to someone who would like to build something, right? Say contractor or something. So contractor and passengers are here same, right? So airline capacity is is basically the nomenclature that we use is that if we fly one seat for 1 kilometer, I am again repeating, if we fly one seat for 1 kilometer, I say that I have sold one capacity of 1 ASKM, that is one available seat kilometer. I repeat, one available seat kilometer, 1 ASKM. So if suppose I have an aircraft which is of 100 seats, okay, I'm taking very simple, decimal, 100 seats aircraft, and if I fly say 1 kilometer, then I have a capacity of 100 ASKM. So if, and now you can multiply it. So if it is a distance of 1000 kilometer and you're flying a aircraft of 100 seats, so you are offering a capacity of 100 into 1000, that is 1 lakh ASKM. So that is the capacity. Now whatever the capacity you offer, not all you will have passengers. If you have passengers in all the seats, that's wonderful. So the number of actual passengers that fly from one A to B, say in the 100-seater aircraft over 1000 kilometer, will be your revenue passenger kilometer. Okay, so one is the capacity and one is the revenue that we are getting. So so suppose in a 100-seater aircraft only 80 passengers are there, so that means your capacity that you're offering is 100 into 1000, that is 1 lakh ASKM, but actually your passenger only had used 80 seats, so 20 seats are vacant. So your revenue passenger kilometer is how much? Is your 80 into 1000, so it is 80,000 RPKM. So your performance is basically RPKM, that is revenue passenger. How many of your inventory, how much of your inventory you're offering? 1 lakh inventory, 1 lakh ASKM inventory, but you are actually utilizing only 80,000 of that, right? So that 80,000 RPKM is your revenue passenger kilometer. Okay, so your market share should be actually be calculated based on your passengers. So it will be either exact passenger figure or by revenue passenger kilometer. And what an airline is offering is your available seat kilometer. So in all cases, available seat kilometer, total available seat kilometer will be greater than equal to your revenue passenger seat kilometer. because you cannot have more than what you're offering as your passengers, right? Moreover, it is a service industry, and what we are offering is a very highly perishable thing. Suppose you have a aircraft going from Delhi to New York. Delhi to New York, you have an aircraft, and in that, say it's a 300-seater aircraft. I'm just taking decimal figures, round figures, 300-seater. And in that 300-seater aircraft, you only got 280 passengers. So that means 20 seats have gone empty. And that 20 seats gone empty is something that has gone perished. You cannot use it again in the future, isn't it? So these are certain things you should understand how when when you're working with airline. What am I looking for? What is the revenue? What is the cost? How much is the revenue that I'm getting per ASKM? If one seat is flown for 1 kilometer, how much revenue I'm getting for that much, and how much is the cost that I'm incurring for one seat traveled by 1 kilometer? So that is a basic unit. Just like in a hotel, your rooms is a basic unit, rooms and the time. So one room and that per time, how much one night, so how much is that cost? So similarly here we have revenue getting per available seat kilometer, cost that you are incurring per available seat kilometer. So these are your metrics which you can understand the profitability of the airline. Okay, now I will just give a perspective that worldwide, this industry, with whatever you look, it may look very very jazzy, very important thing like this, but over the last 100 years of operation, this aviation industry, especially the airlines, have really not done much profit. And I will tell you why this has happened. But this graph, if you can see, uh, this graph shows the revenue. This is the revenue per ASKM. This figure is your revenue per ASKM, and this is your cost per ASKM. So this is a graph that has been that I have taken from ICAO, which is a UN body for civil aviation, and a research body, Center for Aviation, CAPA. So they have come up with this graph, and it shows that see, this is the RS, this is the RASK. This is the RASK graph, and this is the CASK. Okay, so if you can see that this values are in dollars, this are in $7. These are the values. So if you can see clearly that the difference between revenue earned and cost per ASKM, per available seat kilometer, is very less. It's only $1 or so. Sometimes it is negative also. You can see the operating margin here. Yeah, this period, these are all negative. It has gone below zero here. So these are all loss-making time. And if you have not brought that graph, you can see that all this negativity is mainly when the global fuel prices are at high. So we are very prone to external things, which I will also again elaborate. But these are very important things that you should know, and that is the reason we need more efficient system to perform. Now come to the bit of passenger perspective. Passenger wants what? From an operational perspective, a passenger wants a safe flight. So for a safe flight, you have to have a good maintenance. You have to keep your aircraft in a good position every time. Arrive on time, as indicated on the schedule. Why do people fly? People fly because it is a time saving measure. So if an airline delays, then certainly they will look for other options, isn't it? So a passenger will try to have, objective is to have safe flight, and then arrive on time, and third is arrive with their bags. This is very interesting, because there are cases of mishandled baggages. And I'm not saying for a particular airline or particular region of airline. No, it is a global problem. Even whenever I go out, when I fly, I will always carry one set of my clothes in my hand baggage. So that is a level of, since I know that there can be a, issue when your registered baggage doesn't arrive. It can be, it can arrive, say, next day, but for that time, how will you survive? So, I always keep one set of clothes. So these are something that you're expecting. So, these all should guide you as to how you should be operationally efficient. Okay. We have looked into airline economics. We looked a bit of how passengers, the end customers expectation is. And then let's look into the airline operation. So airline operation is a mix of the schedule, the resources like aircraft, crew, the customers, passengers, and then the important things are, these are our processes, restrictions, and requirements. So you have to have a aircraft checks. Every aircraft has to mandatorily go for several checks. Every night they have to go for mandatory checks. So it is not available for certain time. It has to go for weekly check. It has to go for a long-term checks. So you cannot compromise on that, because then if you compromise that, you are playing with safety, and the rule of law law of the land will not allow that. So you have to adhere to certain maintenance schedules. You have to also look for the operation restrictions. There are restrictions at various levels. Like, for example, some of the airports will not have night flying. So London airport, there is night curfew. That means you cannot land or take off from London airport in the night. So maybe some airport may have some renovation work going on in the runway. So there can be restriction. There can be restriction in certain airports which doesn't have after sunset they don't operate. In Northeast, many airports are there. There is that's called sunset limitations. So after sun is set, you cannot land or you cannot take off. So these are some operational restrictions. Then you have regulatory requirements. Regulatory requirements, like crew requirements. So if a crew is flying for certain hours, you have to mandatorily give some rest. Okay. So yeah, you have to adhere to all those things. So this whole of operation in a day-to-day is governed by all juggling between all these things. Now come to a longer horizon. In airline, we have to plan. For example, like you are like Mr. Malia, and you get a very good idea that let's have a new airline which will serve a particular niche of this. So before you begin, you need to do a survey of market, isn't it? Which sector you will operate. You will operate Delhi, Bombay, or you will operate say Calcutta to Agartala or Calcutta to Shillong. What is your forte? Which niche? So you have to see where you want to operate, where is the demand exist, and based on that demand, you will understand which type of aircraft that you will put in. Aircraft comes in a various capacity. There is an aircraft which has 3-seater, 4-seater. There is an aircraft which is 10-seater. There is an aircraft with 80 seaters. There are aircraft with 100 seaters, 120 seaters, more than 200 seaters. If your demand is less, say if you have a route A to B which has only demand of say 20 passengers, so if you put an aircraft of 80-seater, you are going to lose, isn't it? So when you design for a certain route, you have to see what is the demand, and in that demand you have to set for the right size of the fleet. Okay, which aircraft fleet you have to use, what will be the frequency, whether you will operate daily frequency or whether you will operate on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You also would like to align yourself with other airlines to provide end-to-end connectivity. Probably, for example, if you are operating say Delhi to Delhi to say Shillong, and then maybe you would like to have someone who is operating say only Northeast. Hey, then why don't you? I will drop passengers from Delhi to Calcutta to Shillong, and from there you can take my passengers from Shillong to say other places in the Northeast, say Dimapur, Agartala, or so on. And then again you also bring passengers from those stations to Shillong, and then I will pick up those passengers from Shillong to and come to Calcutta. So these are called your alliances. I gave a very small example, but it can happen in a long way also. I can have a flight from Delhi to Frankfurt and say to Lufthansa, hey, I will drop my passengers to your Frankfurt hub, and from Frankfurt hub you can take those to other places in Germany or in Switzerland, so Geneva. So Air India operates say Delhi to Frankfurt, and from Frankfurt to Geneva the Lufthansa operates. So you tie up with partnerships and all, and then according to that you make a schedule, so that someone from Calcutta can fly to Geneva. So you have a flight from Calcutta to Delhi on Air India, and from Delhi to Frankfurt on Air India, and from Frankfurt to Geneva Lufthansa will operate. So you give a seamless connectivity from Calcutta to Geneva. So this is how things work, because there cannot be one airline which is operating all over the globe. So, and you have to serve your customers. So you look for such alliances and partnerships. Further, you want to grow. If you want to grow, you need to understand which markets I will serve. Whether I will serve for say Africa market, why not? If I have to take a flight from say Bombay to Johannesburg, which type of aircraft do I need, and what is the long perspective? And then you have to acquire that aircraft type, and then only acquiring is not enough. You have to train your guys, engineers, and pilots and everything. So these are all your long-term strategies. So long-term strategies will decide your revenue, because these are strategic plan. So long term, mid-term, you try to implement those long-term strategies, and then you take permissions. So this is a very hard constraint that we have. Say I cannot get a new flight to London. The reason is that London aircraft is chock-a-block. It's all the slots are full. They will not give you a slot, because it's every time is so precious. It's the busiest airport. So you cannot operate there, any new flight to there. So you have to see how you have existing slot, how you will optimize. So those things, and how you will plan your route, how will you make timings, so that you don't miss out your slots. And based on that, you decide what will be your selling price, what will be your revenue that you will be getting, what is the yield. Yield is what? Yield is basically the amount that you're getting from one passenger. That is the yield. And then the PLF is basically the passenger load factor. So all this, if you come, I will give you a reference to books also, where you can read more about airline economics. And I would request all of you to at least go through airline economics. It will help you always. Then you plan for how to assign crews. You may all resources have some constraints. See, your crew will have leaves. Crew will have a mandatory that only this much hours they can fly. They will have to also undergo trainings and all. So based on all these constraints, you will see how I can place them in job. Okay, how I can route them for flights, right? And then we come to the operational window. We have something which is very smarter decisions making nowadays, wherein we rejig the fleet type. We'll come to this refleeting thing, wherein we try to make more revenue by just rejigging the fleets just 7 days before the departure. By you look into how the forecast is there for the demand of actual flight. Say a flight is there on say 10th of April. So 10th April flight, by 3rd April you will be coming to know that how much passenger will fly on this 10th April departure. So now based on that, you will try to rejig your aircraft capacities. There will be some say 80-seater plane, there will be 120-seater plane. So you will try to rejig your capacities so that you optimize your resources and get the best revenue. You have to also plan for airport closure, weather, because say for example there is a Hong Kong, there is a typhoon. Okay, so now you know that how to mitigate that you have to cancel certain flights, and canceling certain flights means your aircraft will be on ground and you will not be getting any revenue from that. So there are issues with that also, but you need to plan. So after the typhoon is over, you need to add more capacity in that route so that the backlog gets clear. I hope the Suez Canal example that you might be following will give you an idea as to what happens if something is getting blocked. If something is getting blocked, how the queue build up. So similarly, if say if Hong Kong airport is closed for a due to a typhoon, then maybe that impact is felt for a couple of more days, so that that cascading effect slowly will settle down, and that you have to rejig that. Again, the IROPS is basically irregular operations. This is something that I said that I will discuss in details if I get time for that. But it is something that is really picking up, because this is something which is real time decision making. So, and since it's a real time, you need to have a OR optimization done in such a way that you get a solution in the fastest possible time. You may employ some heuristics also, but this is how you work on that. So again, this is another window of looking into the things. So these are basically the blocks which are actually all are modules, and all these modules have some bit of OR in all of them. For example, fleet planning, which fleet to be acquired, and what is the plan for your which aircraft you will retire, how much your fleet will be over next 2 years, 3 years, and based on that, and based on the how much crew you have, based on these two parameters, the number of aircrafts, number of crew, and your market demand, you will design a schedule. And once you design a schedule based on all your constraints, your slot constraints at the airport, your timings requirement, your weather, everything, you get a clear understanding that how we'll make a schedule. That is the starting point of any airline. So once you have the schedule, you will assign the fleet. Fleet means basically the type of aircraft that it is there. You can assign Airbus 319, you can assign Airbus 320. So this all will depend upon your expected demand on a particular route. And then you have to also look for the maintenance. So for example, you will have your engineering bases. Say for one Air India. Air India has an engineering base of particular, say A321 aircraft will have engineering facility at Delhi and Bombay. So what happens is that you have to prepare a schedule and you have to route the aircraft in such a way that when it is due for maintenance, it will arrive in either Delhi or at Bombay. And then you have to also plan the engineering guys. There is a production planning control, PPC. So they plan how the aircrafts will be in maintenance. You have to plan it properly, because you cannot have all the aircrafts going for maintenance at one time. Then you will not be able to fly. You will have to maintain your schedule, and you have to also make sure that the job is balanced. So one aircraft comes, goes for a maintenance, completes the maintenance, goes back to work. Other aircraft comes, and then it goes for maintenance. So you have to schedule it. So all this scheduling all these are done from the engineering perspective. The first row is all engineering perspective after the schedule. And then you have to adjust the routing also based on exigency. Sometimes there is diversion, and also how you have adjust those things. Tail assignment is basically when you physically assign one actual aircraft to that schedule. And tail assignment is generally done 7 days or 10 days or 14 days in advance. Okay, so tail means basically is an aircraft. Why it is called tail is basically just say in any car you have registration number in its back. So they say tail. So in aircraft, that in the tail there is a it is written that this is VT, VT-ABA, VT-ABC, or VT-ABD. So that is the registration number of the aircraft. So that is called the tail assignment. So prior to tail assignment is all you are dealing with the type of aircraft, means 319, 320, something like this. Okay, but actually in the 319 there will be particular aircrafts that you have to assign that for a particular flight. Okay, and then you come to the operation control, which is controlling the actual operations in the operation control center. So this, this engineering will try to optimize their optimize their resources and come up with solution. So they are in one silo. Okay, they are in one silo. Now come to the crew silo. So in the crew also they will try to pair up the crew and assign flights. It's a very tedious job. It's not easy. So then again, this is another silo that is coming up with optimization and so on. Again, ground, there is another set of things. When you need people, when you have more flights, you need more people and all. And revenue management stream is a commercial stream where they try to optimize resources. So they will try to fit in more flights. An aircraft makes money when it is flying. An aircraft doesn't make money when it is in ground. So from revenue management perspective, they will try to pack in more flight. But at the same time, you have to take care of the maintenance and all. So there is a constraint. Both sides, all these things are maybe having their own optimization, but all this have to converge during the operational window. They have to converge and then come for a solution which is optimal for the whole of airline. So you have to understand how things work. So in a long term, all are working in silos. The aircraft guys, engineering guys are working silo, crew guys are working silos, ground is working silos, sales, the revenue is working silos. But then slowly all this come together. Okay. So this is another way of looking your resources and constraints: the aircraft, airport, passenger demand, and the crew resource. So these are, this is a broader aspect. What are the things that you record from airport perspective, from the aircraft perspective, from the crew perspective, and from the passenger demand perspective. Now coming to OR. So in OR, these are some of the traditional and some new things that have come up in airlines. So in the planning phase, schedule planning, market forecast, schedule constraint, construction, crew planning, rostering, fleet and slot optimization, resource optimization, schedule evaluation. In marketing, revenue management and price optimization. These are all there. These are all there. But again, I'm saying these are all smaller modules in its own. So there are now research going on how to integrate them so that each silo which is optimizing their own part comes up with a one integrated one wherein you have an optimal solution for the whole of airline. So this is how things work now. So there is enough scope for advancement now even in the existing modules. In the execution phase, means in operation side, you will have something like flight path optimization. It's a very important because if you have a better flight path, you can save on fuel. 30% or 33% of our of an airline cost is due to fuel. Any 2%, 5% saving in fuel also will make a lot of difference. And I know that it's a very small time here to explain all this, but there are wind patterns. So you have to plan your flight path in such a way to you take the best use of the wind patterns and then save on fuel and time. So if you somehow Google out our Delhi San Francisco route and all, we started the Pacific route just because of flight path optimization. So it saved a lot of fuel because we are taking the help of Gulf Stream. And aircraft and crew recovery, which is a very important one, which we are also, as I discussed with you all, that we are trying to come up with a new recovery solution with Professor Sen and team. So these are something which is coming up. Gate optimization, again, this is from airport perspective, where you will try to optimize gates so that the passenger movement is reduced. If you have incoming and outgoing passengers, which can be clubbed together, maximum passengers flow can be controlled, and you make the passenger movement, minimize the passenger movement in an airport, then that is an optimized airport. So these are certain things that is there in OR, but this is not exhaustive. There are many things, as we'll see. There are many things that we can do further on as well. See the graph below. You see that as we are away from the actual departure, if we take the distance better that time, then prospect of revenue is more. So as we come closer to the departure, our constraints increase and our perspective of increasing revenue also decreases. So planning is very important, and planning is a strategic planning and optimal planning is very important. So that's what I wanted to depict here by this revenue constraint time graph. Again, the same thing that I was explaining, that if we start early, we can contribute more, and this pie, the profit pie, can be enhanced by OR. If you take revenue related initiatives, if we can increase revenue related increase, we can enhance our revenue. Similarly, if we take cost related initiatives, then we can reduce our cost, and the difference can be the difference will be substantial to make a profit. So the OR plays a major role in this profit slice. So if you can implement a good OR practices in revenue, customer experience, revenue optimization and all, you will have a delta X in revenue coming due to OR. And similarly, you can reduce the cost by various measures. This is something that I explained. The first three I explained that all are working parallelly in different silos. The schedule guys, that's the marketing, commercial planning, they work on their own silos. They work on slots, alliances, hubs, everything, and they are not worried about what is going on in the engineering side, what is the planning purpose and all. So whereas the planning guys in the engineering, they are looking for the how they will maintain the aircrafts, what is the maintenance schedule and all. Similarly, crew will look into their own silo as to what is their legality, training, and what are the leaves that the crew will take and all. So only once they come near to the operation window, only then they can put a, hey, I can aircraft engineering can say that, hey, I can offer you this much aircraft. Hey, I'm sorry, I could not, although I committed 50 aircrafts during the schedule, I can now give you only 49.5 or 49 aircraft. Now you need to rejig your schedule. Now crew will say, oh, okay, I have to rejig my crew resources. So things are always back and forth, multiple iterations go on, and the problem gets aggravated by external factors. For example, this COVID started in this lockdown in India started in March 2020. Think of when we were in November, December, we have already booked aircrafts for April and May and June and all, isn't it? Because booking is open 365 days in advance, and those who are flying to long distance international, they book well in advance. They book 3-4 months in prior, because they know that they have to travel on these dates. So we have got the revenue, sorry, we have got the sales, but then we are not able to commit to that because the COVID closed all the airport and all. So these are some things which we need to take care. Similarly, the fuel price fluctuation. Suddenly the fuel price gets so high that you are not able to sustain. Your cost increases, whereas your revenue is remaining same, isn't it? There is no elasticity. The elasticity with which the cost is moving, I'm not getting the same elasticity in case of revenue. So this all results in issue. Closure of airspace. All of you remember the Pulwama case. Yeah, it was really a bad thing that happened. Nationalistic fervor was there after that. But we remember in airline for a different reason. Apart from all this, we remember it because we lost thousands of crores of money because of this. After the Pulwama case, the airspace over Pakistan was closed. Pakistan closed its airspace for all flights overflying it. As a result, anywhere if you want to go from India to West was virtually you have to either close it down or you have to go via longer route. So if you remember, Air Canada and other US airlines stopped flying to India because all such routes come via Pakistan. And even if we have to fly to Europe, we had from Delhi to Europe, then what we used to do, we have to go all the way south and then take a detour and go northwards. You have to bypass the Pakistan. And that is not only the length of the flight has increased, the fuel cost has increased, it also increases the crew. If if two pilots were required for flying to European destination, now you require 3 pilots to fly to European destination. So these are something which are dynamic, and you don't have control. So your revenue will not be increasing in that fashion, but these all things will affect you, all your constraints. So these are some reasons why OR is a thriving in airlines. This is how your schedule planning is done. If you can see, this is a 744. This is a fleet. 744 is one fleet, and then you assign this. You have assigned resources. Say first aircraft. They are not putting any aircraft registration. They are scheduling based on the numbers they are giving. So you have say 13 744s in your fleet, and then you are using them, isn't it? So in schedule planning, you don't use actual aircraft. You are not, but you know that, okay, this type of aircraft, this many numbers are there, so I can use this much. Okay, so this is how. So uh, in a in a in a typical airline, you will have different fleets. Okay, for example, here you see SpiceJet Boeing 737. It has 13 number of aircraft. Okay, and 13 aircrafts have 189 seater. Some have 212 seater. Some are 149 seater. So it depends which aircraft have to be put in which route, based on the demand, based on the routing, based on the maintenance requirement. There are a lot of constraints with which you have to manage all these things. Here again, I want to emphasize on that is that this schedule is repeating for every day. So you have to make sure that the routing is such that that at the end of the day you have aircrafts at the stations so that it can operate aircraft for the next day as well. If you see the fourth row, it says that CDG to CPH. That means it is starting from say Paris airport and it is going to Copenhagen, and next day it is starting from Copenhagen onwards. So as you can see that there is a swap. So it is Paris to Copenhagen. Again from Copenhagen it is starting. That means there should be some aircraft. So the second row shows that no. It is CDG, yeah, CDG. So third row in this shows that it is starting from Paris. Okay, so this is how you route. So you have to make sure that your routing is such that you are able to sustain for next day operation and so on. So you have to look into those aspects as well. Hub, for example.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Das. So we may need to sort of wrap it up, say within another 5 minutes, so that we have.
I will do so. Yes, I will do so. I will do so. So hubbing is one important, wherein we try to bring different aircrafts to one station, and from there you take a bigger aircraft. So you have to plan also this in schedule. Crew, again, it's a very complex one. You need to understand how things work in this also crew management process. It works in a multiple modules within itself. There's a pairing module and then the assignment module. In a pairing, it does mini schedules, and then these mini schedules are brought in to make a crew assignment, the bigger one. So this is how crew assignment is done. For each of the crew resources, you have a pattern, and then you see how much it is flying, and then how much you have your rest time and all. It is shown like this. Revenue management is very important, wherein you're trying to sell the product such way that you get the right price from the right customer at the right time. So basically, if you go by the economics principle, the demand supply curve, you try to differentiate your product so that you increase your producer surplus and decrease the consumer surplus. That's how revenue management process works. Refleeting, as I said, you work 7 days prior to departure, wherein you try to rejig your fleet so that you optimize on the revenue part. So it's a very important module that is coming up recently. Flight planning and fuel optimization. As I said, you need to optimize, because 1/3 of our cost is fuel. So you definitely this is very important to optimize. You can see that if we do fuel tankering, also hedging, to come up with price fluctuations in oil market. So recovery process is basically whatever schedule you plan, it will always have some inherent issues, and with the external factors coming in, you are sure to you're not able to maintain the schedule exactly. So the recovery process is basically the process by which you try to bring back the schedule to its planned schedule. So how you manage that disruption is a very interesting thing. You have to manage at an aircraft level, and then you have to manage at crew level, and then you have to manage at passenger level. Basically, that is a revenue management. So there are 3 levels. Aircraft level, you have to, suppose aircraft is grounded somewhere, so you need to see how you can route your aircrafts to other stations, so that to minimize the disruption, and how you can again take the crew also, so that they suffer the minimum disruption, and then you look for the passenger level for the revenue management. So there are various approaches to this, and slowly you have to build it slowly. But the most important aspect is here is the time, because if it is, suppose today one aircraft is grounded and I need to recover, I need to do it the fastest possible time, and that's why OR comes into help here. Ancillary products, in OR we can think of how we can increase ancillary revenue. So how to increase on excess baggage, meals, cargoes against excess capacity and all. So these are some things in which OR can play a major role. Big data and OR is coming up very recently. It has come up very well. Couple of things that are coming up is basically dynamic inventory. So every PNR that is booked in makes an optimization, how your market is responding, how your prices should be, and how you are strategizing based on your pricing strategy. You can also predict from machine learning how the fares will go up and down. You can also do sentiment analysis through Twitter data and all. You can also look for based on advanced weather plan, how to route your aircrafts, or say Make My Trip has a weather data for next 14 days, and knows that okay, on Delhi on 10th April in Delhi there will be thunderstorm. So it can Make My Trip can give alert to those who are booking on 10th of April from Delhi, that look, hey, there will be a thunderstorm and your flight may get disrupted. So these things can these things are coming up in a big way. So I know for one of my colleagues is working on this type of problem. Apart from this, I am working on a particular problem which is on viability gap funding. So there's an RCS flights. This is a subsidy is being offered by government. Now the airline which bids for the lowest subsidy gets the route. So I would like to know how I can how an airline can optimally bid for the VGF. So this is something which I am looking for, and if someone can collaborate with me, wonderful. So I would look for some responses, and anything if you have some other ideas also coming up, I would request that you get in touch with Professor Sen, and then we can have a discussion on that part also. So these are some references. These are some books that I have gone through, and these are some good books. So the first one, Masood Bazargan, is a wonderful book. It deals with various OR problems. So if you have schedule problem, fleet assignment problem, crew management, IROPS, everything. So they have given a mathematical analysis, mathematical algorithms and how to solve. So it's a very good book. You can go through. I have personally known this gentleman. He is a professor at Embry-Riddle University in USA. And second book is The Global Airline Industry, written by one who's and who's of airline operations. So by MIT faculty, Peter Belobaba and Cynthia Barnhart, they have contributed to this book, and this is a wonderful book. So someone who wants to understand in and out of a airline should read this global airline industry. Airline operation delay management is a bit of mathematical one. The next one is also mathematical one. The Naval Taneja is also an MIT faculty. He has written a couple of books. I have I'm fortunate to have met him in person. So these are some books you can look upon. The first two I would really recommend to go through that. So I have to run through my PPT fast because of the time issue. I would love to have some questions, and then I can, if there is time, I can briefly go through the IROPS algorithm. Over to you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Das, for this wonderful talk. In fact, I'm sure the students will appreciate that you have given sort of overview of the different problem areas where work can be applied, starting from the planning stage to recovery scheduling, which is the real-time decision-making process. Okay, and you have touched upon so many dimensions, including fleet planning, crew management, even maintenance planning. So as the students can see that also you have given ample examples that how you operate under so many constraints. Now they can easily correlate it with their theoretical knowledge of work, where they have actually solved problems where there is some objective and there are some constraints, right? Now these type of constraints are often given by the industry people, and it's based on the real constraints that they face. Okay. Right. And you have also very nicely explained that how to come up with an objective function. You have mentioned that how you what is the unit of measurement for the revenue and cost for airlines, right? So I would like to ask the students that you please see that it is one thing that you are given a problem, you have an objective function and a set of constraints, and you know how to solve it. So that is one part, and that is a very important part also. But another thing is the modeling. That means you are exposed to a real world problem where you do not have any idea like how to even identify the constraints or what kind of objective function would be suitable for the problem. So there you need inputs from the people, from the field, from the industry, right? So once you have intense conversations with them, then only you will understand that how to go about it, what should be the objective function, what should be my constraints. So once you write it in simple English language and collect some data, and then you can try to model. So even in your class tests and in your assignments, you have also attempted to model such kind of problem, right? So nowadays, I think in today's world, modeling is the most important, because that is where our contribution lies. Because other algorithms and all these things sort of standardized and they're already in software, right? So I think a natural continuation of this course would be to take up some real life project, which you will do in close collaboration with industry. So now, if you have anything to ask related to the talk or any other aspect, please go ahead.
So this class is up to when, sir? Do you have?
This is actually ending in 1 or 2 minutes, so it's up to 12.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So I would really suggest that students go through at least first 2 books. Yes. Whenever they get time, it's a soft copies available.
So the students, do you have any question or anything?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, this question to Amit Das, sir. So, like, I don't know whether this thing happens in India or not, but I follow some international news. So I saw this in foreign airlines where they allow the bookings to exceed the capacity, like
Yes, it
in
happens.
foreign airlines, and then later
Yes,
at last moment they ask the passengers to cancel their tickets and something like it. So what's the motivation behind doing this from the
it's a
airline
wonderful
side?
question.
Won't it be damaging their brand, like if they are?
It's a wonderful question. In fact, I would have loved to take it up exactly. It was already in my mind to take up the overbooking case when I would have dealt with revenue management. See, all airlines do overbooking. What is it that suppose you have an 80-seater aircraft, you will and you're trying to book it saying that I have an 80 seats. What happens is that invariably there are certain percentage of no show. That means certain passengers who doesn't turn up at the airport. So this is always a practice. So based on that, this practice, we know that say in 80 say 5 passenger will not turn up. That's what we have seen over the period. So what we'll do is that we will try to inflate our inventory from 80 to 85. Okay, so that we take into account that 5 seats. So now we are selling for 85 seats, and on 80 to 90% days we are working perfectly fine. Okay, so we are perfectly fine because now we know that even in 85 5 people will turn down, so I will have my inventory 80-seater aircraft and I will be able to support my business. Yes, then problem does come in certain one sunrise day, then when the passenger instead of 80 81 passengers turned up, or 82 turned up, or 83 turned up, and then we have to take care of that. So it's basically, as we say, there is a 80-20 rule, isn't it? So 80-20 rule is that, for 80% of time I will get away with it, so 20% of time I will try to give them some coupons, or some I will give them hotel and all, but still, I will, for the 80% time I am getting a revenue. So for 20% time I may have to cancel, and may have to give some money. That is it. So we understand, you have to this is how business works. So overbooking is there. Even government has come down strongly against that. You cannot dishonor the booking if someone has done. So we look for certain alternatives. So that is also there. We work it out, but it is there, and it will be there because it is all an over practice only. It has come up with forecasting and all. It has come up with that only.
Okay. So,
Thank you, sir, for the clarification.
so Amitji, we have to now close the session.
Thank you so
We're
much.
running out of time. So thank you a lot. And is it possible for you to share these slides with us?
Sure, I
Along
can
with
share.
that, so I think due to lack of time, you could not present the mathematical formulation for the
Right.
recovery scheduling, but I think they are quite familiar with it, at least for the formulation. So
Right, sir.
if you can share the slide, they can go through it and try to
Sure.
understand on their own.
Sure, I will do
think
the same.
they will be capable of doing this.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So you can just attach this slide in the chat in this meeting itself.
Okay, let me check it out. I will do it now right away. So I will do it in
Stop
chat
sharing.
window.
You stop sharing.
I think it is written chat in channel meeting is only available to team members.
Okay. So you send me the slide over mail.
So
I'll share it.
I will just drop in a mail to you right now, sir, with the final one.
So thank you, the students.